What's up YouTube? For today's video, this is going to be your guide on how to use Ditto in Scarlet and Violet. I'll be providing some competitive movesets and some fun meme movesets too. If there's a Pokemon you'd like to see me cover, put it below in the comment section of the video. And if you want to support the series and the channel, drop a like on the video and let's get started. So, Ditto, well, you know, it's got no options apart from transform, but it's actually quite interesting because there's a fair good amount of information to explain. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain, obviously, the more meta Ditto builds, and I'll give you a little bit of insight onto the move transform and some other like anti-builds you can do, plus some interesting items that Ditto can only run, and a little bit of information on the upcoming raid as well for Ditto, how to go about doing that. So let's get into it. So the first set you're probably going to see the most is, of course, the Choice Scarf set. So Choice Scarf is a great item for Ditto with its ability Imposter. So it's got two abilities. Imposter is pretty much what everyone is going to be using. So when you swap the Ditto in, it's going to transform into the other Pokemon, which is, really quite good. However, with Transform, there are a couple of little things you have to keep in mind. So when you transform into a certain Pokemon or any Pokemon, you'll get 5 PP on the moves, right? So that means, if you do transform, you've got 5 moves, and then you're going to struggle if you're using a Choice Scarf. So swapping with Ditto, definitely is a thing there if you are using a choice item. Sometimes you'll get like little off meta sets that don't have Choice Scarf, but virtually Ditto's best role in Pokemon is a Revenge Killer. That's truly its best role. And also when let's go back onto Transform there. So it's going to copy the stat changes of another Pokemon. So say if you Dragon Dance 3 times, Ditto comes in, it's going to copy all those changes, plus the Choice Scarf, so you're always, pretty much going to get outsped. So it's going to copy the typing, the ability, weight, and the gender of the Pokemon, everything like that. The only thing about it that will remain of itself is its health. So that's why it's good to give it max health on the Ditto, right? Just thinking of some more things here. Now, if you do try and transform onto a Pokemon that has a substitute, obviously it does fail. Another Ditto, it'll fail as well. Or like a Pokemon that's already transformed, like behind like illusion and things like that. So that's how, transform works in a basic nutshell there. So with this build, I've also given it defensive EVs. Now, I know you're thinking, well, why give it defensive EVs when it only keeps its health? So this is very, very situational. So say if you did come across another Ditto, for example, well, you want to have extra bulk in the defense because you'll both be struggling. However, it's going to be based on speed too of the Pokemon transforming. So if you're a slower Ditto than the other one, for example, I've given this relaxed nature, drops its defense, and we've got 0 IVs here, for example. If you obviously don't get your Imposter to activate right away, you'll still have all the PP of Transform, which is 16. And if the opponent has a Choice Scarf Ditto, which they most likely will, they'll only have 5 moves, and then they'll start struggling. So they'll be struggling a lot earlier than you, and therefore you can win. Also, that's where the defensive EVs come in, so you'll be able to tank those struggles a lot better. So there you go. That's usually the way to run a Ditto for the EVs. I mean, there are some other specific little EVs you can give it for certain situations, which I'm going to cover, here as well. So another thing to talk about is the Terra. So I feel like Terra Steel's quite good on Ditto because you can go like Terra Steel, so you take less damage from like, say, a Stealth Rock. Say if Toxic Spikes are put down the field, swap it in, you're going to be immune. So that's quite good as well. And you could even go Poison type too to absorb them. That's another, a Terra Poison. That's a kind of a cool way. Another good one you could have is Fairy too, because that hits a lot of things for super effective. Say for example, you do transform into a Pokemon and, you go for like say you got a fairy move, you can go for Terra Fairy and hit even harder. So, there are little situational things like that for Ditto. But yeah, this is probably the build you'll see just Choice Scarf Ditto. Whether people actually do this to their defensive stat or think about these extra little things is another thing. But yeah, it actually can make the difference if it comes down to 2 Dittos transforming. Next one we got here, this is more of a meme item, so we're probably looking at the same sort of EVs as we did before. Matter of fact, I'm just going to use this one. So some people like to run Quick Claw on there. it's definitely a meme sort of item to run. So let me explain. So when you transform into another Pokemon, you copy everything, right? Except your health. So that means you have exactly the same speed stat, which means it's a 50-50 chance on who is going to be going first. So there's still a good chance that you could go first, but there's still a good chance that you're going to go second, and that might make the difference out there. Mainly running Quick Claw on there is a meme item, so you might be able to have the Quick Claw to activate, and then you can take the Pokemon out, and you're not like locked into Choice Scarf either, so you're able to use, I don't know, for example, say if you had like I don't know, like a Dragonite, right? And you had, Dragon Dance and Extreme Speed and Earthquake and stuff like that. That means you could use Dragon Dance again and not be like stuck into using just Extreme Speed, things like that. So it does free up your moveset a lot, which is another option there. But that's very, very gimmicky for sure. If you're looking into like real competitive, you ought to be using Choice Scarf there for sure as your main item. Now, this is a very, very interesting sort of thing to look at. I know a lot of you may not even know this, but Ditto actually has its own signature items, which is going to be Metal Powder, which is one of them. So I'm going to explain that now. I also want to say one thing too. Currently, these two items are not in the game, so unfortunately, you won't be able to, I don't think you'd ever be wanting to use this, but maybe if you're playing Showdown or like this is in Gen 10 or further, they bring these items back, you can use this. But yeah, these are Ditto's signature items, which are really quite cool. So what Metal Powder does, it actually doubles your defensive stat. So right off the bat. So I've made this a defensive wall, and I've given it max health and max defense. So that means that 214 to level 100 would be 428. That's pretty good. So 428 defense, which isn't all that bad. Now, the thing about these items, Metal Powder being one of them, is you have to use Limber. Because if you think about, you have to use Limber because it only works while Ditto's not transformed, which means you can only have it for, one turn, then transform. Or you can swap it into, physical attacks to sponge them if you're trying to stall and things like that. So that would be, the only use of these items. I just thought it'd be cool to mention it because, I doubt that many people would know about this. I mean, there might be a few, sure, that really look into Pokemon stuff, but these are really, really interesting items that you've probably never, ever tried in your life. I believe I have done this item. If you want to see this item in actual battle action, I've done a video on this. It's called... I think it's called something like, it's a full Ditto team, and I use a Zoroark. It's something along those lines, and I actually make use of the Metal Powder Ditto, and it tanks an unbelievable powerful physical move there. So yeah, that's another thing you want to check that out. So yeah, that's how it works. It doubles your defensive stat, which is pretty interesting, but only as long as you are not transformed, because obviously once you transform, you won't be a Ditto any longer. Next one we got is the Quick Powder set. So as the name suggests, Quick Powder means the speed stat is going to be double. So I've given it max health, and we've also got max speed. So that means this is going to go for 428 speed. It's very, very fast. So, yeah, I've given that Jolly, of course, and we've got Limber and the Quick Powder. So, an extraordinarily fast Pokemon. Not sure what you could really do with it, apart from just swapping it in there, maybe doing some stalling with it. But, man, that is a very, very quick Ditto for sure. It's not too many Pokemon that have items like this that, completely double their stat. It's very, very rare. So, yep, there you go. There's the defensive boost and the speed boost for Ditto. Some very, very... unique and items that you'd probably never ever get to see. So another one we got here, of course, we're going to do a Pip Night special. I always do. I always give it to you. We've got a Assault Vest Ditto. So when you've got a status move and you're holding Assault Vest, it'll only pick your attacking move. So since Ditto only gets transformed, it is going to use Struggle over and over again, which is going to be beautiful. So we've stacked it up with max health. And sorry, we're going to 248 health there, so we're able to live Struggle 4 times, get 4 struggles off, and we've got max attack there as well. I'm not sure why that's, not really sure why that's 30. So there we go, yeah, 31. And yeah, I've given it Adam Nature and put the last little bit there into speed. So there you go, a Pip Night special, a Struggle Ditto. Some cool things to know about Struggle as well as a move. It is a typeless move, so it hits everything. It can be boosted by Technician. However, you do recoil damage to yourself at the same time, which is kind of unfortunate. It's a very, very unfortunate move. If you want to know more about Struggle, I've done a full Struggle Pokemon team. I've actually done like a couple of them. They're very, very interesting videos because there's lots of mechanics and stuff in there. So you could definitely check that if you want. Just type in like Pip Knight Struggle team, it'll come up. All right, another situational thing that I want to say with Ditto here. I just got to delete a couple of these Dittos here, so I've got a few Pokemon to use as an example. So, say for example we had... Let me bring a Pokemon up here. I know, Iron Valiant, right? Now, say if Iron Valiant used has Future Sight, right? And then you had a Ditto that copied that and was an Iron Valiant with Future Sight. You used Future Sight and then you swapped it out. Future Sight actually damages on the turn it hits. So it would actually use the special attack of the Ditto. So that's why I thought, this is very, very situational, of course. But like if you had a Quiet Nature one there with max special attack, you could get a little bit more base power out, if it was that, right? So that's probably like one of the only other things I can think of right now on the spot to have any other EVs in health or defense or something like that. But yeah, if you've got any other situational cool things, let me know in the comment section. This is sort of like it's almost like a breakdown of Ditto informational video, yeah? So that's another thing you can look at. Now, there is a Ditto raid coming up. Let's talk about that. So the easiest way to deal with the Ditto raid would be to bring like something like Magikarp along and have it as level 1, as long as a host has got this. So you've got a level 1 and just give it Splash. Not Spoosh, Splash. So just give it Splash. So the Ditto will transform into the Magikarp, and then you can do the Ditto raid really, really easy. The Ditto raid will have 5 IVs as well, so 5 bests will be really, really good for breeding, so you can just catch like, heaps and heaps of them. So that's a good way. Another way to deal with it too is also Ditto. And the answer to Ditto is Ditto. Remember how I was talking about at the start there that a Ditto can't transform into another Ditto? So yeah, you could go about using that and you're good to go. So just have like it doesn't really matter, just a Ditto as a host, and then the Ditto tries to transform into Ditto, it's gonna fail. So it's gonna be super, super easy to beat. So that's how you go about beating the Ditto raid very, very easily. And yeah, we've still got a little bit more to discuss here. It's funny that you have a lot to discuss with Ditto when it only really learns one move, but it's actually a very, very good Pokemon in a lot of different situations. So something else I want to discuss here. Okay, some Pokemon. Firstly, Ditto is a very, 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 very versatile Pokemon. So how do we go about countering it? So most of the time, the opponent, or even yourself, is going to be running Choice Scarf. So the best way to get around Ditto is like stalling Pokemon, because I don't know, this is a good example. Like say Chansey, right? Say Chansey doesn't really have much to do in attacking moves. Say it's got Seismic Toss. That's about it, right? So say if Ditto transforms into Chansey and it's got like, I don't know, like Thunder Wave. I'm just doing some random moves here, like Soft Boiled, Stealth Rock, something like that. Say I've got that. That's really bad for Ditto to transform into that. So if you can time it right on the battle and you get the Chansey in against it, so then it has to like transform into it, that is another option, because Ditto really, it absolutely just detests sort of transforming into like stalling sets. Another good one would be even like Toxapex, I'm just thinking like the most stalling Pokemon. Like it can't do anything, and it'll be Choice Scarf Recover, Choice Scarf Baneful Bunker. It literally can't do anything at all. It might be able to maybe get a Toxic Spikes if it does have it, but that's how you shut it down basically. And now another thing to note as well, say if a Ditto say if you are setting up stats and stuff, that sort of thing, you have to be very careful, because if you start setting up a lot of like Dragon Dance or Sword Dance nasty plots, Ditto can just come in and copy and wreck you. That's the thing. So you kind of don't want to be setting up why the opponent still has a Ditto around. So that's another thing to think about with the Ditto as well. Let's bring up some other things here. Some good just thinking here, some good sort of teammates. I'm thinking anything really. Ditto's quite good on any teams that probably need revenge killers on their team, that it's quite good. I mean, there's so many teams you could say, like, I could give like hundreds of examples. So it's quite good on even like if you had like a stalling team, that would be quite good because that would give you like a way to copy the other opponent. So Pokemon that have stalling sets. I'm just going to use Clodsire, for example, because it's quite a stalling Pokemon. Say if you had like a Clodsire setting up like Curse or something like that, or, you know, Stockpile, things like that, or it's not so good for those. But say if you had a Pokemon, say if you had a very stally team, say if you're running like, you know, Toxapex, Corviknight, Chansey, all those sort of Pokemon, and then the opponent would be inclined to start setting up against you. Say you had a Dragonite, say they had a Dragonite and they were setting up Dragon Dancers. You could bait that and then swap in the Ditto, copy it, and then sweep the rest of the team. So it's quite good for that sort of thing, right? That's sort of where it shines. And it can really play in any format too, because all it has to do is copy a Pokemon and then it's good to go, you know? That's it, you know? It does best against Pokemon which are definitely set up already, or powerful Pokemon. You know, they have a very, very powerful move there. And even like other choice Pokemon, it's quite good because sometimes I might have like, say for example, they might have. Let me give an example here. Let's go like moves like Uturn aren't too bad out there because like say you went into like a Cinderace, right, and it had Uturn. Well, you could just go swap it in, go for Uturn, and then swap it out. You know, just for a safe swap in, and a Pokemon with like, say for example here, we got like Volt Switch. That's another good one too. But it's just really good at doing that. That's like its main role at doing that. And revenge killing at the end. So when the opponent's sort of weakened, you transform into their Pokemon and sweep the rest of them. That's virtually how it works there. I've done many Ditto sweeps where the opponent has set up and you just swap it in there with the Scarf and end up, you know, wrecking their team. The thing about this is it is Choice Scarf, so you can find that you might be like walled like by it all depends on the opponent's set too. So you sort of just I play it purely as a revenge KO Pokemon and that's it. You know, just save it for when you need to get rid of a Pokemon that's very threatening. So anything that's speedy in your team that's a big threat that's destroying you, swap it in, get rid of it, or weaken like the opponent's like checks for it and things like that. That's exactly how I would play Ditto. I don't know if we got much else to talk about now. I feel like I've truly covered everything you could possibly even cover with Ditto, right? Just thinking some other things like there. Some good, like some meta Pokemon right at the moment that you could copy, which would be quite good. I'm thinking right now. So say like Sword Dance Koraidon. This is a great example. So Sword Dance Koraidon, say it sets up Sword Dance, well, you can literally bring Ditto in there and just annihilate it, right? And probably wreck the rest of the team, even if you've got like Collision Course there. Say if you were sort of like sweeping through the team and then you went for Collision Course, but they had a Ghost type in the team, so you'd have to swap out them. But, you know, apart from little things like that, it's going to be, you know, quite good there for sure. Like Miraidon, Koraidon, there it was good. Like really powerful, like Dragonite, Iron Bundle, Champow, Godengos, things like that. You know, the really meta Pokemon, you could just swap into them, which are going to be quite good. I think that's about it for our little Ditto guide. I really hope you enjoyed this. I know it's quite long, but you know, it's actually a fairly some interesting things to explain there. I tried to go into as much detail as possible for one move and one Pokemon, but I did hope you enjoy it. Just if you are looking for the Ray thing, looking how to beat it, it's very, very easy. Don't bring your Iron Hands, all right? Don't bring your Iron Hands with Belly Drum, all right? Just bring a level 1 Magikarp or a Ditto along, and you'll be right if you're the host. All right, that's about it, people. Hope you enjoy this one. Peace out.